I am Brandon Clark. This is my co-host Swall Hall, and today we're meeting on Uncommon Ground. So we're sorry we missed a week. That one's on me, as you can tell from the background if you're watching video. I moved, so we are back now, and boy, did a lot happen in the time that I was gone. World
Just
War
a little bit.
Three, just a little, right? World War Three, seemingly. I don't know. We Israel bombed Iran. We bombed Iran. We had a military parade. We're going to talk of each of those things today. And then we're also going to end with a debate on if progressivism, progressive ideals, progressive politics has eroded morality. So make sure you stay tuned for that. It's sure to get pretty spicy. To start, we're going to speak on America bombing Iran. Obviously, as we're recording this is just like the day after. So it's a big thing, going to be in the news cycle. What happened essentially was after Israel and Iran kind of had, I think it was 7 days of back and forth. Trump kind of escalated the rhetoric. Iran said, hey, we're not talking a nuclear peace deal as long as Israel is bombing us. Trump went ahead and ordered strikes on 3 sites of nuclear facilities in Iran. Despite, and I'm sure we'll get into, there's no real strong evidence for them having the capacity for nuclear weapons. Again, it comes after the talks have stalled. What we launched were 6 30-pound bunker buster bombs. They're bombs that only the United States has. We launched those on the Fordo. Sorry if the pronunciation is wrong. We launched that on 1 facility. The other 2 were targeted by 30 Tomahawk missiles from submarines. So I have my thoughts on it. I'm sure a lot of you could guess. So Swal, I'll let you jump in now that I kind of gave the backdrop of it. Give us the conservative perspective. Where are you at with it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it'll be that big of a surprise to our listeners based on the few times we've talked about violence on this podcast and where I kind of sit on that and anybody losing their lives or anything like that. And so I did not want this, as I've been on Twitter all week, and it doesn't seem like any lay people want this. It seems to be, the Ted Cruzes and all of the politicians who keep on uh, basically just being chill with war while the rest of us are like, hey, we don't want that.
Mhm.
Uh, and then, ironically, obviously, the meme has been going around of Trump from, I think, 2011 or 12, talking about it must have been 2011 because I think he said if Obama wins again,
Yeah.
he's going to bomb Iran or he's going to bomb Iran to get votes or something like that. And then, ironically, here we sit. So, yeah. Uh, so, just from a Catholic perspective, there is a thing called just war, just war theory. In fact, the American and most of the world's war theory kind of is based off of St. Thomas Aquinas' stuff. There is a tiny time when preemptive strikes can be morally licit, but this time around, as you alluded to, with the lack of evidence of any nuclear stuff, I'm not sure that this fits the bill. Pope Leo spoke on this already. He said that war does not solve problems. On the contrary, it amplifies them, and he urged all the nations to halt escalation. That's kind of my view on all of this, is that um, only if it's like a last resort is the only time when I'm ever gonna be okay, as if that's even the way to say it, with war or
Yeah.
bombing or anything like that. So I think this is horrible. And as far as escalation from here, I mean, at my place of work, all of the high schoolers and all of that were talking about getting drafted and what does this mean? And I don't think I think our military is ginormous, so I don't see a draft happening unless like an actual World War III breaks out, where it's like
Mhm.
worldwide, lots of countries. But it is going to be sad to see if boots are on the ground in Iran and Iraq and that
Mhm.
region again after we spent so long trying to get everybody out.
Yeah, I am curious. What do you think the possibility of conflict with Iran is? Obviously, there's tiers of that. It could be as simple as maybe they retaliate with drone strikes. We strike them
Right.
again. Do you think something like that happens? Do you think it even goes further? Maybe we're doing sending troops into Iran. Like, what are the possibilities of these things if we're not speaking of like a greater world war breaking out? Even if
Right.
it's just U.S. troops maybe going to aid the IDF on missions in the
Right.
region. What do
Right.
you think? Like, has this kind of changed maybe your perception of or the possibility that you thought of U.S. troops having to actually go boots on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it doesn't come to that. and it'll really be telling just based on how Iran responds to this. Obviously, if they bomb us, I mean, if you saw in Trump's Truth Social post or whatever, it was so stupid because he was
Yeah.
like called it peacetime or whatever.
Yep.
He's like, now peacetime begins. I'm
Now
like,
it's time
you
for
don't
peace.
bomb somebody and then the next day you're like, okay, it's peace now. Like that's
Yeah.
not. If we know anything from pop culture or books or just history, somebody attacks you, you attack them back. Keeps
Yep.
going. Like
Mhm.
it's not. I mean, look at Israel Palestine. Like
Yeah.
yeah, they keep going back and forth. So I
And
don't know why.
important to note, Trump did
Yeah,
something eerily similar to this in his first term, where he assassinated General Soleimani, I believe, went against his advisors, against
yeah,
intelligence. To
yeah.
do it, Iran did retaliate, and they killed, I think, 3 or 4 U.S. troops, injured like 30 to 40 of them. So the possibility of them responding is pretty high.
I think they will. I mean, they made it pretty clear that, uh, that they weren't cool with any peace talks or what, like you said,
Yeah.
as long as Israel was still attacking them. And of course, that's been going back and forth. And I think that Israel was wrong to get involved with that, but we'll talk about that in the
Mhm.
next one. But yeah, I mean, boots on the ground, I think we're hopefully still a little ways off from something like that happening, just because these, like you alluded to, these types of bombing strikes kind of are always happening and
Yeah.
all over the place.
Mhm.
But we should be cautious. We should be vigilant because things could ramp up if people are just sick and tired of the back and forth, and they might want to escalate it even higher. So
So my opinion, I typically lean closer to what you're iterating here, where I
yeah,
think like just because we're bombing a country doesn't mean boots are gonna go on the ground, doesn't mean World War III is gonna happen. Like
right.
it's normal everyday occurrence, right? We just don't hear about all of them that we do everywhere. For me, this one is like uniquely scary because of the tensions already in the Middle East, right? Like there's what
Yep.
I would consider a genocide going on, at least what anyone could consider a conflict, a horrendous conflict going
Mm-hmm.
on between Israel and Palestine. There's still tensions, strikes happening between Israel and Lebanon. I mean, Saudi Arabia is always a player, right? Like there's so much there that is really like held together on like the smallest string that anything could just
Snap.
knock it
Yep.
apart, snap. And at that point, we end up in a war. And that is where it becomes conflicted to me, because if a greater war breaks out in the Middle East, we probably should be on Israel's side. But Israel is going to be the one that leads us into that war, which conflicts me on
Mm-hmm.
like what to do if we get there. And that's why like all of this kind of makes it a uniquely scary situation for me, and
I
why I
agree.
think we might possibly actually end up with boots on the ground there.
Yeah, and maybe you've heard something about this. I'm trying to remember who told me and what exactly they said, but I didn't Putin say something about bombing Iran and him getting involved with all of this as well? Am I making that up? Did you hear anything about that?
So yeah, I might be mistaken as well because I'm only vaguely familiar, but I believe he said specifically that he doesn't have the resources because of
Okay,
what's happening
okay.
with him in Ukraine. But
Gotcha,
I
gotcha,
could be
gotcha.
wrong as well. I'm not for sure on that.
I just knew somebody had mentioned something about that, and I was like, okay, well now if Russia's getting involved,
Yeah.
now we are talking
Now
about
we're talking World War.
scale, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
that would
that's
be
gonna
it.
be major. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, just from my perspective, my things to kind of keep in mind is, like I said, preemptive attacks can be moral. It would just kind of depend on how real the intelligence and the threats of nuclear attacks from them were. And obviously, none of us lay people are ever gonna know
Yeah.
the truth there, which sucks. But I would just prioritize de-escalation, peace talks as much as possible to prevent a wider
Yeah.
humanitarian catastrophe. Because that is, like you said, that we're teetering on the edge of
Yeah.
falling into just
Greater
turmoil.
conflict. Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's 2 points I want to hit before we jump over to
sure.
Israel. The first is because you pointed about the moral implications of preemptive strikes. It is important to note that under Article 2 of the UN Charter, that preventive strikes, which are essentially preemptive, they're in the UN Charter, they're the same thing, are illegal under international law. The only times that they're considered justified is with imminent threat, which I guess I should clarify first. Preventive strikes are classified as any threat, a strike against a target that is considered a potential threat, but not imminent threat. So it's only
Yep.
justified if it's imminent, if it's overwhelming, or if there's situations where you're left with no other choice. And I don't think this strike qualifies for any of those with the evidence, as we'll probably get into more in the other segment. The last part I wanted to touch on, I want to ask you about is, do you think, and I don't know what your original stance was on the JCPOA, the Iran nuke deal, the Obama Iranian nuke deal. But do you think this reflects a grave failure on Trump's end of pulling us out? And then what I would concede as the lefty on the panel, a failure of Biden of not getting us back in.
You know what? I think I would actually concede and agree to that this is a failure on both presidents' parts as far as talks with Iran and relations with Iran go. And quickly, I did want to mention that with the Catholic just war theory, that is the same definition. I have it on my screen. I just didn't use the word imminent, but it does say truly imminent. So we agree there. But yeah, I would say that this has been a failure. But nobody's really surprised that Trump has bad what do you call it? World politics. What's the word I'm looking for?
Geopolitics, foreign
policy.
Yeah.
That and that was the big thing I was scared of during the primaries when it was everyone and Nikki Haley up there. And I was like, please pick her because none of the rest of these people seemed to, Vivek and Florida dude, like just hearing them talk about it. And of course, Trump, we already knew from his previous, that's just not his, that's not his specialty, we'll say. So yeah, I would agree with you that this is a failure on both parts.
Cool. And we can jump over to Israel. I will say, though, Nikki Haley is just as insane on foreign policy. So I don't know what you saw on her and foreign policy, but I digress. We won't open that debate. But moving over to kind of, I guess, I won't say it's a bit juvenile to say the start of all of this, but what brought it into the mainstream, the discussions of, hey, we might actually be bombing Iran, was actually conflict between Israel and Iran. That, has been going on since the beginning of time, right? But like new strikes had happened. Israel announced a plan essentially to denuclearize Iran, where they launched strikes throughout the last week. The death count in Iran from these strikes are 400, I believe, with around 2,000 or 3,000 injured. Iran's retaliations, I believe, have only killed 25, but have injured hundreds or so. I don't know the exact numbers on that end. The strikes have landed all around Tehran. Iran strikes back have landed in various areas in Israel. So it's the typical in the region. You typically do see missiles going back and forth and here and there. But when it comes to talks of nukes, when it comes at the times that there's all these other tensions happening, obviously it's also a bit heightened. The UN has condemned these attacks. Iran vows to retaliate, kind of just to help get us where we are. Like they've done the little bombs, but they are like promising like a big retaliation strike. So Swa, do you hold, I guess we'll start with, do you hold a different opinion on justifications of Israel strikes? Are you around the same place there? Like, let's start there.
No, I think that they were wrong. And I don't know if it was Netanyahu or who it was. I saw somebody was giving a press conference and they said they were quoting the Bible, but it was awkward because it was from the Talmud. It was not from the Bible. And he was it was like some verse that was basically like, yes, preemptively strike. And it was like, no, dude, that's in your book, first off. So no, I think that Israel was in the wrong there. Like I said, it needs to be an imminent threat. It can't just be, we're scared of those guys. Yeah. Otherwise, everyone's going to be attacking and bombing all the time. As far as the numbers and stuff, the numbers that I saw is that 100,000 people have been displaced in Iran already from the bombings, and that Iran struck specifically Tel Aviv and Haifa. They threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know, but that's where a lot of the world's oil comes from. And of course, if that happens and oil prices surge to $7 a tank or whatever, it's going to affect middle income, low income families the most. It's going to have effects all over the world. And so regional stability in the Middle East, it's like annoying because it's like the only geopolitics we ever talk about is like the Middle East pretty much. Yeah. But it's because of stuff like this. Like there's so much trickle down from what happens over there for the rest of the world that people just don't really pay attention to. And so, yeah, most important to me is those 100,000 people displaced. I saw this TikTok video of some TikToker. He's trying to hit like all the countries in the world, and he actually visited Iran like right before this, and was just showing like the normal people, because obviously I've got my thoughts about their government, and
Yeah.
that's fine. But like the people, they're just people, and he was videotaping them, and they're just like laughing with them, having a good time. Like it looks like a completely normal place to live,
Yeah.
and to think of that place just being in ruins right now just absolutely devastates me. So yeah,
And
I think Israel is immoral in this situation.
And to add into that, the number of 100,000 people displaced, it's important to note that Iran is already the country with the largest influx of refugees. So
Right,
I'm sure a
right,
large portion of those displaced are people who were there who have already been displaced,
right.
which makes it a bit even more strenuous when you realize that
Yeah.
that's kind of what's happening to these people, especially when a good segue into what I was going to get into, when you realize that this is happening to these people kind of on baseless accusations, right? I mean, I'm
Yep.
sure a lot of us have seen. If you haven't, go look it up because it's hilarious. There's a compilation of clips of Netanyahu going as far back as like I think 1995, where he's like, Iran is weeks away from nukes. They're months away. They're 90% of the way, where he said this like over and over again, literally like
It's
20
just
of them.
boogeyman, bro.
Yeah, Iran is long the boogeyman of the Middle East, and now Israel is saying, as I hinted to, that they're doing this to denuclearize Iran. There's a grave nuclear threat, and they have to be the one to put it out because obviously, they're the ones at threat. What conflicts with that is that the CIA since 2007 and has as recently as months ago reaffirmed that Iran isn't even trying to nuclearize, nor are they
Right.
close. IAEA, which is essentially the International Nuclear Police, their report also concluded that while Iran did have heightened levels of like uranium, it wasn't past what is needed for like the normal fueling things that it's used for, and that they also didn't have any capacity for weaponry. So our own intelligence, DNI, also Tulsi Gabbard herself testified in front of Congress months ago and said Iran isn't close to nuclearizing all of this. So Israel is going against the entire intelligence community here in doing it.
Yep.
And that's why it's also weird to me that Trump is then siding with them. You would
Yep.
think that the instinct would be to side with our intelligence over theirs, especially in the face of them doing this over and over again.
Yeah, and I've never wanted to be the guy who buys into any of the stereotypes and tinfoil hat theories of, oh, Israel owns America, they own the government, blah 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 blah. But then you say something like that, and you're like, why? What? Why else did he decide to side with them over his own people? And talking about the IAEA, they reported after America did their bombing that there was no radiological contamination in the area, which would add fuel to the fire that then there was no radiological stuff there. Otherwise, you would expect to see even trace amounts if you exploded some uranium somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, and then and now I'm not an expert on foreign policy. I'm not an expert on Middle Eastern history. I don't know all the details between Iran. I know that they hate us. It's probably justified to some degree. But like, so we have nukes. This country has nukes. All these countries have nukes. But God forbid another country have them to protect themselves. I get the idea of, well, because their hatred towards us, they might actually use them, whereas we don't think like France or any of the other countries are going to use them. But like, again, why do they hate us? Probably because we bombed them a bajillion times. Probably because we've destabilized their government a bajillion times.
Shout out
And
to the
so
Cold War.
yeah, so it's like, we made our own bed on this, and then we continued to torment these people who just want to defend themselves. And I'm not trying, like I said, maybe everybody in the actual government is a monster. I have no idea. I don't know any of these people. All I can do is go off the news. But like I said, the actual people who live there, they're just trying to live there, man. And it's just, I don't know. The whole thing is kind of gross to me. Just that we're gonna let all of these other countries have nukes and nobody's gonna bat an eye. But if somebody else wants to be like, hey, I also, it's like if we all had guns and then somebody turned 18 and they're like, I'm gonna buy one too, and we're like, no, you don't get one. It's like,
See,
okay,
See,
but I
that's
don't know.
actually an interesting point because I don't know if what your exact point was. We might disagree a bit there because I'm not even all that against denuclearization efforts. Now, I do think that the most efficient way to go about it is clearly peace talks, diplomacy. You just see that throughout history, right? Like the SALT talks, the START treaties, the Budapest memorandums. Like the biggest denuclearization efforts we've ever had have been diplomatic. Did you want to jump in? You go ahead.
Well, I just had a so and I mean, I'm a pacifist. So I don't even want people. If I had my way, I would snap and every gun in the world would just disappear.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like I want everybody to have nukes, but it's more like I don't even understand. I'm not Iranian, but like I wouldn't. Why would I say no? I'm not gonna have nukes, but you can have nukes.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would do that?
Mhm.
So it would have to be like everyone's. That's why I'm saying like it's not really fair to even ask these people not to try when the rest of the countries have it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I completely agree with you. I think like the smartest thing that one could do would be to try to leverage some sort of like a nuclear deal that included other countries in the region denuclearizing. Like, hey, like Israel will get rid of its centrifuges or lower its levels or something like this, right? Because that's largely what typically happens is countries will either denuclearize for guarantees of defense, like in the Budapest memorandums where Belarus, us, I think there's one other country agreed to defend Ukraine if they denuclearized, right? There's like the START talks where like, and then, well, the other one I was going to say is the other reason people denuclearize is because you're agreeing to denuclearize with them, like with the START talks between us and Russia, right? Those are the two ways to do it. And to just say like, no, we're going to bomb you till you do it. Well, that's just how you start a war.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I'm like, why would anybody ever agree to that at that point? So I think we agree there.
We are in agreement.
Yeah. I'm not defending nukes.
Yeah.
I don't like nukes.
Yeah, me either. So we agree. Did you have anything else? Or do you want to jump over to the parade?
Let me look at my notes here. I mean, no, like I said, and like I always say, thoughts and prayers for the displaced. People who've lost people on both sides. I don't care who the bad guy is. I don't want anybody's losing their grandma or their sister or something. So yeah, that's all I have to add on that.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm with you. Peace and love to everyone involved. Israel, Iran, any other people hit. I don't think this should happen to anyone. So I totally agree. On to the Trump parade, the birthday parade, the military parade, whatever you want to call it. The giant waste of money is what I would call it.
Yes.
It costs between $25 to $45 million. On top of that, there was an estimated 16 million in infrastructure damage, mostly to the roads from, the big tanks driving over them. Who could have saw that happening? I think personally, because I do think, and from your comments, I'm assured that we do agree on the fiscal irresponsibility of it. I think it's even more wild to do in the face of Trump mobilizing the Marines in California, mobilizing the National Guard against California's wishes. I think to like still go on this like very authoritarian military centered parade in the face of that, in the face of these ICE raids, the protests, all of that is uniquely distasteful. I'm curious what you think through that lens. Do you think that made it any worse, or does your opinion kind of stay the same on it? And then, you can also give us your flushed out opinion as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I have the same numbers here: 25 to 45 million dollars. Obvious, complete waste of money. I feel like that's a nonpartisan thing right there. We all agree. As far as the optics and what's going on, both. I mean, you can even bring in the actual world stage, how we just bombed people the next like 2 days later after showing off our big military.
True.
Optically, probably not the best. Obviously, that wasn't like the first thing in my mind. The first thing in my mind was this is a boring ass parade and it's just kind of corny. I kind of, like I said, I'm not a big violence guy, so it's like I don't really care about the 250th anniversary of the military. I get it that that's what allowed us to get our independence eventually, and like cool, like I get it. I see why it's worth commemorating in some way, but I feel like a better way to commemorate our anniversary would be like to, I don't know, support our veterans. I don't know, get them the proper health care and finances, because a lot of them can't, buy houses, they're on disability, just stuff like that, some shelters, education. But who am I to judge? Of course, I don't know how to run a country, so obviously spending it on a parade is much better. So yeah,
I'm curious where you are on the Trump fascist conversation. For those who don't know, before you
yeah.
answer, we interviewed a professor on fascism. Is Donald Trump a fascist? All of this. I'm curious if after doing that interview and then now seeing the way Trump is blending politics and the military and this kind of militaristic crushing of dissent, where are you? Do you think he's a fascist? Do you not think he's a fascist? Has your opinion changed from these things? Where are you at?
Um, yeah, my actually it has changed. So based on the conversation that we had with that gentleman and the definition that he presented, uh, and I might have no, I don't think I did say it on there because I don't know that we had a follow up discussion. But excuse me, I would say based on that definition that he at the very least has fascistic, excuse me, tendencies. Now I am of the belief that so far, the American system has enough guardrails that there's only so much somebody with those types of ideas can really do. And so it's not like a super big concern to me. I mean, I never wanted the guy in office
Yeah.
this time around anyways, but uh I still don't I have concerns about, skipping over due process with some of the immigrant stuff and like yeah, I think this is all, my way or the highway type of thinking and it's bad. Um but I don't think that it's super unique to Trump, to be honest. Just looking through all the presidents that we have had, but yeah, I'd be willing to say that he is a fascist, just like I was willing to say that he led an insurrection on January 6th. I'm not above criticizing the guy, so yeah,
Do you think that these kinds of actions, the parade specifically, not like, January 6th, but like the
right, right.
parade, the military, like the mobilizing of Marines and things, just the recent actions, do you think that step towards more justifiable worry? Like, should more people begin to be concerned, even if we're not at that point where you think it's like gonna like a real threat? Do you think people are rightfully or should be worried?
The parade, not as much because it's hard. I mean, it's 250th anniversary. Maybe they've been planning this for a decade. Oh, it's coming up. Like, we don't really know.
Mm,
I don't know if this was his idea or if it was always part of it. I know it coincided with his birthday,
yeah.
but like like I said, maybe they came up with this idea in 2015 and they're like, oh, in 5 years for the. So I don't know that that has much to do with Trump specifically, but as far as him mobilizing the National Guard or Homeland
Mhm.
Security, what was it? National Guard.
Demobilized California National Guard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
National Guard. That stuff should be worrying,
Mm,
um, particularly when it's paired with the ignoring of due process, dealing with the same topic of the immigration stuff,
mhm.
because it's not as if they're two unrelated things. They're both one thing,
Yeah.
and um, so yeah, that does give me pause. That does give me worry. Um, but like I said, so far, I think that America can handle it to some degree, but we shall see when we're at the end of this. And what is it, 20? He just became so 2029,
2028. But yeah, well,
28?
2029
Yeah,
tech, he would leave in the January of
January. Yeah.
29. So yeah.
So we've got some time for things to go down the crapper even
Yes.
more. So
Yeah.
I should
So
say.
I don't have much other to put on this. I felt like we probably weren't going to stay on it long. I had a couple numbers of polling, and then if you had anything to add, you can jump in too.
Sure.
I saw polling that said 60% of Americans thought that this was a waste. This included 34% of Republicans, 80% of Democrats, and then interestingly, what I thought was really interesting, polls of veterans showed that 70% of veterans thought that you shouldn't celebrate the military with a parade like this. This included 54% of veterans that vote Republican. So it seems like this was for no one. Like, who was this for, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody wanted it. But yeah, if you could chime in on those numbers,
Yeah.
if you had
Yeah.
anything else to add.
None of those numbers surprise me. Just like with the bombing stuff, it doesn't seem like our government has any interest of being for the people, by the or by the people, for the people. They're just interested in it being by us and for us, and not even for all of us, because even the people in the government, a lot of them have varying disagreements. Like, have you seen the meme of Vance standing in the back, kind of scowling?
Yeah.
As Trump is like, yeah, people are like, is Vance the only one who actually didn't want this? I doubt that that's the case,
No,
but
yeah, no.
it's still a funny meme. But yeah, the only thing that I wanted to add is just, like I said, I'm cool with honoring the military, the people who have served, patriotism. Like I get it, but it just comes off as vain,
Mm.
and him tying his birthday into it, adds to the cult of personality
Yeah.
talk and all of that. And it's like we should be more humble, not boastful of like, look how many tanks I got, look how many aircrafts I got. Like,
Yeah.
no, we should be honoring, I don't know, maybe the people
Yeah.
who died. Like I
I
said,
totally
the
agree.
the people who served. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm with you. I think that we absolutely should honor our troops. Even if I don't agree, I guess with all the missions they've went on, I
Right.
think that they're
Right.
all heroes. You know what I mean? And they've sacrificed a lot for us, right? And so we should honor them, not in a fascistic way, not in ways that mirrors like North Korea and Russia, though. Like there's ways to do it. I don't know. Maybe make sure none of them are homeless. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
make sure that they can get the mental health care they need. Maybe.
No,
Is
no.
that too much to ask for? I don't know,
You're
right?
being silly, Brandon. Come on now.
I'm just
More tanks, please. More tanks.
it's wasteful spending. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
like so yeah, for me it's just when you cross the line into like blending politics and military, that's the big thing for me. Why were you even talking about it being your birthday? That should have never been mentioned. It should have only been about the troops. And I don't know, maybe don't roll tanks through like a residential area.
Ugh,
Like that's not like it's weird because
yeah.
just quickly, I know everyone has like a different view of patriotism, but like for me, that's like the puke in my mouth patriotism. Like that's the kind of stuff that makes me want to be like, I'm not American. It's like my
Right.
kind of patriotism is like fighting fascism and like kicking Nazi ass and stuff, not like, hell yeah, look at this sick tank, brother. Like I just don't get it at all.
Yep, yep. I'm the same way. Like I like America for its ideals, not
Yes,
any of the almost any of the actual actions we've taken. I
exactly.
like what's on the page,
Mm,
like the Constitution, Bill of
yeah,
Rights. That's my patriotism. That's where I get
yeah.
hype. Where I'm like, yeah, we're the best damn country there is. But knowing that, obviously we don't achieve those ideals, but it's like having those in place as a
Aspirations.
goal
Yes.
is what makes us one
Yeah.
of I'll say the greatest countries, and that's my patriotism. So I
Totally
agree with
agree.
you.
Yeah, totally agree. The liberal values, and I don't mean some people
Yeah,
hate when
I
I
know
say
what you
I
mean.
don't mean liberal, I'm liberal,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
and democracy and things like that are great. That's what I get behind, not tanks. But I digress. Progressivism eroding morality. SWA, I guess. I didn't know, I guess the best way to frame it. Do progressive
Yeah.
values erode morality? If you have a better way to sum it up,
That's
go
exact. I
ahead.
just wrote has progressivism eroded morality.
Cool. And I guess give us your case for why it has, since you're taking.
Yeah. So yes, it has. And to be clear, when I'm talking about progressivism, I'm talking about stuff like DEI, LGBTQ, promulgation, I should say. Ideas like free education, postmodern relativism, stuff like this. That's more about you and the individual and uh, liberalism, but I'd say like dialed up kind of is what I'm talking about. So, yeah, I would say that one of the biggest issues has been the idea of relativism and lived experience and your truth, speaking my truth, and all of that. And I'd say that that has been very damaging across the board. It seeped into stuff like the gender ideology stuff that's going on with people transitioning and trying to allow for children to go through these types of things. I think the normalization of stuff like porn and free the nipple and stuff like this, and just like sexual debauchery everywhere. There's censorship stuff with like cancel culture. Pew Research in 2022 found that 65% of Americans were afraid to share their beliefs. Again, one of the things I like about America is that a bunch of people with different beliefs live together. So I
You
don't
think, hold
feel
on,
like
wait, hold,
anybody.
hold on. You think people are scared to share their beliefs because of progressives?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, keep going. I don't want to too much, so you keep going.
DI in schools, obviously, I think it should be more meritocracy based. And so, yeah, I just think a lot of these things, it's clear to see if you just look at like um, when third wave feminism started, or when like the pill happened, or when uh, Roe v. Wade, and you can just see when these big progressive benchmarks came, and then statistically what followed, and all of the damage that occurred. So that's like my opening thing. I got more information, but I'd love to hear your defense.
Yeah, I guess first, I think it's really weird to say that people are scared to share their beliefs because of progressivism when progressivism is about like expanding morality to include more groups of people. I would think if you're scared to share your beliefs to a progressive, there's probably good reason. It's probably because, like, I don't know, you think black people are lesser than, or like gay people shouldn't deserve love or something like that. Maybe those beliefs aren't as accepted. But like, I mean, if you even if you look like progressive morality has led to the acceptance of things like gay marriage. Progressives pushed for this on a national level. It went from 35% acceptance in 2001 to 71% now. You could look at acceptance of interracial marriage. It went from like 4% in the 50s to like 90% now. Progressives are who headed up the civil rights movement. They headed up women's suffrage. If throughout history, if you look at the greatest moral leaps we've taken, those movements have always been pushed by progressives. And then they've always been fought by people who said, well, these people are eroding our morality and ruining our society and our tradition. Like it's typically, and this is the problem I have, is when these people say that progressivism erodes morality, what they mean is tradition, right? But tradition isn't always moral. And that's why, like I'm saying, throughout history, the biggest moral leaps we've taken have been led the way by progressives, right? Racial marriage, gay marriage, women's suffrage, civil rights, all led by progressive movements. All were told by traditionalists that it was eroding our morality. So I just think that progressivism leads to expanding morality. It's not about preserving the past. It's about building a better future. And since progressivism expands our moral cycle to include equality and empathy to more people, that there's no way that it could erode that. It expands it. And I think that, and you kind of pointed to it, largely the ways that it would be said erodes morality would be like entirely subjective.
Um, yeah, I mean, I would say stuff like the sexual immorality and porn, and now we're getting to this point where
You think porn is
finally,
like a strictly progressive issue?
oh, I mean, it's a progressive. No non-progressive person is going to be like, yes, naked women should be able to be everywhere. Nobody. That's a progressive view. Free the nipple. That's progressive. You wouldn't say free the nipple is
Do
like
you
a
think
progressive
porn
movement?
Wait, hold on. I'm so curious here. Do you think porn is as big of an issue as it is because of sexual liberation or because of porn consumption?
I I don't think those things can be separated. I think sexual
Yes, it can. Do
liberation.
you think people would consume sexual content even if we were like suppressing sexual freedom? People would still find ways to like masturbate, right?
I mean, yeah, some
So
people are
they're in
going
and
to.
of themselves. So I'm asking, which one do you think drives porn as a problem? Do you think it's the fact that we're saying, hey, like if you want to have sex with people, go ahead? Or do you think it's that people watch porn at ungodly levels? Because I think it's obviously the consumption, right?
Well, I'm saying people watch porn and are okay with porn because they're
Like
progressives.
the issue is
Yeah.
sexual addiction. It's not sexual freedom, right? And sexual addiction is separate from progressivism. That's a problem anyone can experience, and no progressive pushes for sexual addiction. And I think, and I mean maybe we don't agree, but I think most people would probably logically buy into that sexual addiction trumps sexual freedom and what drives the porn industry. If people weren't addicted to porn, it wouldn't matter how many people made it, right?
I'm not sure that I'm following the questioning, to be honest with you.
Is porn as
Uh,
big as it is because progressives say if you want to have sex, or is porn as big as it is because people watch porn at ungodly rates?
the second part is just begging the question. You're basically saying, do people watch
Sexual
porn
freedom,
because
sexual
you're
addiction.
maybe I'm
Because you
mishearing you. It
can,
sounds like
because
you're
you're
saying
addicted.
people watch porn because people watch porn. It's like, well, that's just nothing. You're not saying anything. That's a tautology. Of course,
No,
people watch
no,
porn
I'm
because
saying,
they
do you
watch
think,
porn.
because
I'm
you're
saying, why
saying,
do they watch porn? They watch porn because we live in a society that says it's okay to masturbate, it's okay to watch porn, it's okay to have sex with with 50 girls in one day, 1,000 men in one day.
you
Bonnie
think
Blue.
people are
That's
only,
why.
so you think people are only addicted to sex because of sexual liberation?
No, I'm saying most people who watch porn are not addicted to sex.
They're addicted to to porn. They're addicted to masturbation.
I wouldn't even. I don't know.
And that's
I
a
wouldn't-
sexual act. I mean, I'm almost positive that would, like, if you're addicted to
I-
masturbation, it's considered a sexual addiction. I'm almost
Oh,
positive
I
on
mean,
that.
yeah.
So you're a sex
absolutely.
addict,
But
right?
I'm
If
saying
you're-
watching porn and being addicted to it are two different things.
most people who watch porn are addicted to it. And I'm almost positive there's data on that. You're so lucky I didn't know the debate was going to go here. I would have that
me
pulled
neither.
up.
I don't have that data either.
I am
but
almost positive there's surveys on this.
But either way, what I'm trying to say is this idea that it's okay to watch porn. That sentence, that's a progressive idea.
Right, but I don't think, and we would.
And so if we had a society that said it's bad, I don't think as
people would
many
still
people
watch porn.
would do it.
People would
Yeah,
still watch porn.
people will always do it. You can make murder
Right.
illegal. And people
All
still
that
kill
would
people.
happen is that people would then be in jail for doing it, which I would think would be a
No.
waste of resources. It would be rather
didn't say
moral to
illegal.
lock someone up.
I didn't
for
say
that.
illegal. I'm talking about cultural shame.
Oh,
Do
well,
not
then the
do
same
this
amount of people
because
would
you're
do
a
it. The
freaking
same
no.
amount of people would do it.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that
just,
wouldn't change anything then.
that's
Yeah,
just
just
insane.
cultural. No, because it already is. Like if you go out, there's no one who feels comfortable. I mean, the amount of
No,
people who
it's
feel
complete
comfortable
no. Everybody's
telling everyone that they beat off 20 times a day is minute. It's 0.1% of the
no.
population. Nobody feels comfortable doing that. We already
completely
have a
disagree.
culture that is
Completely
open
disagree.
to masturbation addiction. Okay, brother. Do you think
completely disagree? We got Bonnie Blue going on podcast every
do you think
week
a president,
talking about how many
do you think a
people
president could say that during a presidential campaign?
could say what?
That they masturbate 10 times a day and still be taken seriously? Because like Trump, by the way, what I'm getting at here is like I understand what you're getting at with sexual liberation, because Trump can talk about having sex with women and still get elected president. So I agree with you on sexual liberation. On sexual addiction, I think that's completely culturally ostracized. If somebody said that at any mainstream level, the backlash would be so negative. It would be disqualifying for a president. Most people would just look at you weird for that. If you have like a job, it wouldn't be socially accepted at your job if you're like going in the bathroom because you have to beat off or something. I don't think we live in a culture.
Yeah, but you're talking about stuff I'm not. You keep on bringing up sexual addiction. I'm talking
masturbation
about
is a sexual addiction.
just ever masturbating. That's crazy.
It is a form of sexual addiction.
What?
You don't think
No.
you don't think addiction to masturbation is
Oh, see, you're adding the word
classified-
addiction. Masturbating.
No,
every Monday. Not,
okay, then
not
we're
70
just talking
times
past
a
each
year.
other. I'm talking
Yeah.
about addiction to masturbation.
Yeah, of course that's an addiction. I'm talking about masturbating, period. At
Yeah,
all.
no, I'm saying it's a sexual.
not-
if you're addicted to masturbating, you have a
Ostracized.
sexual addiction. You agree
Yeah,
with that, right?
Yes, I agree. But I'm
Okay.
saying just masturbating and watching porn is a completely accepted thing to do in society.
No, I wouldn't even say that.
That's wild.
But no, frequent
so
masturbation. But what we're talking about is people masturbating at the rate that they do, and somehow sexual liberation allows it to be more.
No,
People
I'm
would
talking about
masturbate at the same
masturbating and
level.
watching porn at any level.
Yes.
I'm saying is only because we have a culture that says,
So
yeah,
you're
that's
saying
okay.
if our culture entirely said that it wasn't okay, that no one would do it.
Not that no one, but the numbers would be less. I mean, that's just
Yeah, no,
common sense, I feel like.
that's not true.
Okay, well,
Not true.
we're off in the weeds on a
And I don't think that's
particular-
progressive. Yeah, because
so-
I just
What?
completely reject the premise, because
That's
I don't
wild.
think I think what drives porn. I don't think porn is a problem created by progressives. I think it's created from sexual
So
addiction.
should we ban porn sites in America?
Should we ban porn sites in America? No, but I'm fine with the things they do with the ID checks or whatever.
Yeah, why not ban it though?
Why not ban it? Because for the same reason that we haven't banned alcohol, even though it's harmful, I think that the negative outcomes of banning it would be harsher than letting it with some restrictions.
And I would say that's a progressive view. So there you go.
You don't agree with that?
progressives
So you're
defend-
fine. You would ban
defend-
porn. You would ban porn outright.
1000%.
So then what would be the punishment for it?
For making porn,
For
fines.
so you would only ban like the creation of porn, not
like porn websites. I don't know.
what
how,
about
like,
people going on there?
having?
I'm
Yeah,
talking
I don't
like,
know
what if somebody-
how. I'm not sure about enough of the web stuff to know how. But basically, like how like in well, this is maybe a stereotype, maybe it's not true. In like China or something, like if you want to go to like I don't know. Certain websites are like blocked like by the government, like you can't access
I
them.
believe that's true, but I don't know.
That's what I'm talking about. So you just couldn't get to it. Like it just wouldn't be possible.
So then what if
And
someone
that's
used
what I would
VPN?
support.
What if someone used a VPN and got on there? Should there be
Yeah,
punishment?
fine. Yeah,
A fine? Okay, yeah, that's just, I mean, that's insane.
I mean, it'd be impossible. That level of uh implementation probably wouldn't be possible, to be honest.
Yeah, and it would be a
Like,
waste of
no,
resources. It would be a
yeah,
waste
to
of
like,
resources for
but
sure.
people recording it,
Yeah.
and uploading it and like distributing it, like porn, like brazzers and all of
Yeah.
that. I would
And
like go in and
I
arrest all
also do
those
want to be
guys.
clear, and then we can jump off of porn, you know,
Yeah.
so we can debate other things. But I do want to be clear.
Just
I
shows
think,
porn debate.
yeah, I think the progressive principle would be the one that I stated, which is that the belief in banning porn would lead to more negative outcomes than allowing it. So we shouldn't ban it. And I think that that's the progressive belief. And I don't think that you could say that that leads to more porn consumption because, again, I would say it's sex addiction. We could
Let's
disagree there.
clarify. Maybe, do you think free the nipple movement is a progressive movement?
I have no idea what that is. I've never heard that.
What?
Yeah,
Free the nipple?
Never heard of that in my life.
I don't believe you, but that's fine. That's crazy.
I know that like sexual liberation is like a leftist thing.
Free the nipple is women
liberation
who walk around without their shirts on in parades protesting that it's not legal for women to walk around with their shirts off. That's a progressive movement. That's textbook
I mean, I
progressivism.
guess, bro, in the same way that like white nationalist movements are right wing, right? Like,
they are right wing.
Like, I guess it's
that.
like now
Like,
you're just trying to define the majority by the minority. Like, I thought,
but that's not the minority.
About, like,
that's
liberation.
That's
if you're talking about people walking around.
That's every liberal.
I don't think women should walk around concerts shirtless.
Yeah, and if you said that and like progressive Facebook group, they would all attack you for that. They would destroy you.
That's not true.
I mean, I've seen it. Like I know people. I know these girls. I
want to be clear that.
Have you ever been to Pride?
This is coming. Yes.
Have you been to Pride?
Conservative. This is coming.
Yeah. Have you been to Pride? Where
on how progressives would treat a progressive.
I don't know
in progressive spaces.
Call those things
in which I constantly am in.
Where people are wearing the dog masks and they're in leashes and they've got the assless chaps and progressives love to be naked in public and they think that the body is beautiful and should be accepted. Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Now you're like intertwining like crazy things. The progressive.
That's not crazy. That's what I'm talking about.
No. Do you think the progressive value is BDSM? The progressive value is
being you do you. You're true.
Progressive value.
That's
sexual liberation. Value. What people do with that has nothing to do with progressivism. The fact that people walk around in chains,
but it does,
isn't a progressive value.
Yes, because you're saying that's not me.
People
but
would do that whether or not progressives existed. Like in a culture,
the progressive value is, well, I don't want to walk around in chains, but you walk around in chains. You do you, honey. That's what I'm saying. And the only reason they walk around like that is because you said you do you. And we should say, no, you don't do you. Don't be a freak out in public.
Do you think porn doesn't exist in like these countries that are like super suppressive of like sexual liberation? Do you think porn exists globally? I just don't get
you're
what
missing.
You
what I'm saying.
No, I'm not missing anything.
You are
crazy things to progressive.
No, because they're oh my gosh. Okay, maybe you don't know. Maybe I just have the wrong because I'm followed with so many conservatives and stuff. So it's come up a lot. Do you know Bonnie Blue? Do you know who that girl is?
No.
The porn star. Okay.
No.
She is a porn star.
I'm a real person.
Who had
for real
sex with 1,000 men in a single day.
Okay, I've seen that meme. I've seen that meme on Facebook.
Yes, so she's the one who's done that.
Okay.
And since then she has been on, I mean, name a big podcast that would have somebody like that on. The whatever podcast. She just sat down with Andrew Tate last week. She is worldwide super famous.
So is the white girl who called a black kid the N-word. Is that like a conservative?
No, nobody knows her name. Nobody
is that
knows
a conservative value?
That's not a famous person.
Is that, she's going on Piers Morgan regularly and Fox News and CNN. What do you mean?
I've never heard of her.
Yeah, I've covered her on my channel like 4 times now.
You know
she's all over mainstream media.
You know Hawk Tua?
I mean, kind of, yeah. The girl from the video.
Yeah. And she has her own Talk Tua podcast. What I'm saying is,
I don't know any of this.
I have a real life. The reason why she's not immediately ostracized for having sex with 1,000 men is because Well, that's her. She says it's liberating.
Because
Blah,
of
blah.
progressives. Because of progressives.
Yes, because
So then
she says it's liberating. It's feminism.
The white woman who's not immediately ostracized for saying the N-word is because of conservatives, right?
Yeah, but I don't. We've already been through the N-word debate. I don't think it's a problem to say the N-word. So, unless she was,
yeah, okay, that's insane. I mean, whatever.
But back to we're so off in the weeds on.
You don't. Not, I mean, that's it. This is another value of progressive ideals and morality, right? Is because progressive values get you to the clear conclusion that if someone says the N-word, then gets hundreds of thousands of dollars donated to her an entire career and is doing the media cycle, that's probably a bad thing, right?
Did she attack somebody with the N-word?
She called a little black kid the N-word on camera and then went on Piers Morgan
for what
down
thing?
On it. Not only
what?
doubled down on it.
In which way?
In which way? What? She called him the hard R.
Like
what do you mean?
You know how I'm like, hey, Brandon, my nigga? Like,
no.
Or like, you.
No, like angry. Have you not seen this video?
No, like I said, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, watch the video when we get off the podcast. They're on a playground. She starts the video saying, oh, this kid was trying to reach in my purse or something like that. There's no like, this kid's like away from her at this point. She walks up to this kid saying this. Like, you can watch the video yourself. They're like yells at him a little and then calls him the hard R N-word.
Yeah, no, that's stupid.
But to start a GoFundMe.
Yeah, I don't understand
over $1 million, was on Daily Wire, Piers Morgan, Fox News, has a career now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take your word for it. It sounds hard to believe to me that she would, because
look up the video. Look up the video.
I can't see. Yeah. I'm not like, I love Piers, but I can't see him being like, yeah, call a black kid the N-word.
No, Piers was against her. Piers was against her.
Okay, I was
he went on Piers to double down and debate Piers
I was
that what she did was okay.
Okay, when she was on Daily Wire, were they against it?
No.
They said
no. Their whole reason they went into this. I remember their specific reason was, well, we don't support the use, but we support that people are trying to cancel you for the use. Like, you called a 5-year-old black kid the N-word with a hard R.
Yeah, no, that's wacky. But I just don't understand how you can say.
I wouldn't attribute that to conservatives. That's why. In the same way, I wouldn't contribute the weird shit you're saying to progressive.
But it's based on progressive ideology. That's the reason why it's downstream from it. Because the whole, yes, I mean, it's literally
people watch porn, people do BDSM, people do this stuff in Iran, in countries with
that's
no
not what I'm talking about. I don't care that people are doing it.
So it's not inherently attached to progressives if other people are doing
them doing it is not what I'm talking about. Them doing it and then it being socially accepted. That's the difference. The socially accepted.
Yeah.
And that's the progressive part.
Yes.
Because they say,
yes.
Live
and I would say
your individual truth.
And I would say a moral system that is more encompassing of empathy to more people is a better one.
Conceding. It does come from the progressives.
No, no. If that's what you mean, if you mean that the fact that progressives won't shun them makes them like.
Yes. I'm saying we should, as a society, should say, no, you're a slut for having sex with 1,000 people.
And progressives
get a job
don't shun them.
Yes.
I guess where we disagree is I don't think the fact that progressives won't shun them cause it. Like, that's the big disagreement.
That's what allows for them to be welcomed. I mean, you guys are the ones welcoming them, or else nobody would be welcoming them.
Right, but they would still be doing it. And I think that.
But I don't. That's different. That's a whole different category.
Yes, but okay, so then now I get it. And what I would say is that and I'm sad that I got to it with like only a minute or so to go. But I think the welcoming of it is showing of a more stringent moral system. I think a moral system that can encompass empathy to more people is better. I don't think that erodes morality. I think it expands it. I think expanding is pretty antithetical to eroding.
Right. So, I mean, the real issue comes down to our disagreement about what's moral and what's not. And so
said, it's tradition. What you want to preserve is tradition. You're mad that progressivism erodes tradition. It doesn't erode morality. It expands it.
No, I mean, I think it is.
It allows more people to be seen as. Does progressivism allow more people with more actions to be seen as moral?
Yeah, but I mean,
so then it expands morality. Definitionally.
Yeah, sure, but you're acting as a definitionally expanding morality.
So we're in the debate, guys.
Expanding morality definitionally isn't a good. You're asserting that it's a good without evidence. You're just saying it's good to expand it.
Sure, but
it's
I'm
not?
glad that we came to an agreement that it's not eroding it. That what it's eroding is tradition, but it is expanding.
No.
And
It's
not
expanding.
Eroding.
It's not expanding morality. Expanding what is considered under the umbrella of the definition of morality. It's like if I call,
which is like the longest way to get to.
If I sit on a cinder block, I just expanded the definition of chair, but that's also stupid. So it's like that's all you've done is this is now moral.
You didn't. No, to be clear, you didn't, because the definition of chair already encompasses a cinder block technically.
Sure. Yes. Okay. I'm just an example I came up with.
Bad example.
I drank out of. I don't have anything nearby. I drank out of a freaking shoe, and now I've expanded the definition, so I'm adding to shoes. I mean, to cups, man.
I don't know. The definition of cup might already encompass that. What's the definition of a cup?
I don't know, but let's say
it's something you drink from. I think
okay.
It's something you drink from.
For the argument, let's say cups only talk about what an actual cup is.
Right. If we pretend reality is the reality, your argument makes sense.
No, we don't have the facts, so we have to argue.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Laptops have a freaking definition. That one I know for sure.
Okay.
So if I say, well, I've expanded, I'm helping laptops because this is a laptop too. That's who cares? That's just dumb. So that's all you've done is
that's not analogous.
Yeah, I've expanded.
It's exactly.
You're saying I'm expanding morality.
How is that
not
expanding
eroding
a laptop?
It.
How is that expanding a laptop?
Because now we have two things, and there's more objects that fit under laptop. There's more things that fit under morality.
What is the definition of laptop, and how does shoe fit under it? Because if you found something that fit under the definition of laptop, you are expanding it. But the problem is a shoe would.
Yeah, you have to change the. That's why I said it's based on our definition of morality, because you have to have a definition of morality that allows for things that aren't moral, in my opinion.
Right.
I'll say in my opinion for the sake.
We don't agree on what morality is. I don't think.
Exactly, and so that's why I'm saying that's the.
I think personally,
issue.
We'll end here. I think morality is subjective and a social construct.
Spiciest one we've had.
It might be. We might have to do this.
I'm yelling, again. Bro. You getting me mad? Yeah.
We might have to do this one again, more centered on like what morality is or something.
But we already did that one time.
We did. Was it for this?
Yeah. It was one of our. I think it was our first debate, actually.
Well, then maybe for like a long one. Maybe we need like rounds to hash. Even though I'm getting ahead of myself because we still have to do the Inquisition. We have all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I want in on this. I think morality is both subjective and a social construct. So for me, I think if you're adding more things that are considered moral, you're expanding it. That's why it would be for me. If you want to sum your position up quickly.
Yes. Yeah. I've decided, for the sake of this podcast and other things when I'm talking to secular people, to go back to what I used to view morality as, which is well-being, objectively, what's good for humans and what's not. And I think that having sex with 1,054 men in a single day is objectively against human well-being.
I think that's probably sex addiction, but we'll end it there. No, I'm just kidding. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, comment. If you're on YouTube, we're really trying to grow there. That helps us out a bunch. If you're on Substack, subscribe so you don't miss an upload. If you're on Spotify, one of these days, I'll go and find out what you guys do. I think it's like a heart it or whatever. Add us to your playlist.
Yeah, it's heart.
We appreciate you wherever you listen. We don't discriminate against our listener base. So every Wednesday, 12 p.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time, for those who don't know abbreviations, I guess. And until next time, peace.